Alright, you ready? This is gonna be we're making the thirst trap. We're making the thirst trap for the book cock users. Here we go, look at me. Ooh, oh, look at me, I'm the pinnacle man. This is for all you sad, pathetic, English literature major women. We're gonna do, hang on, we gotta do one of these, we're gonna do one of these. And we gotta hit him with a fucking, oh god, I love Margaret Atwood. Oh, do you guys listen to Mitski? Oh! So I completely stole this idea from Charlotte Malloy, who is a far superior booktuber to me, of course, there's like no doubt. I'm gonna button this up. So today we're gonna do the 10 lowest rated books that I've read on Goodreads. I thought that the books on this list were gonna be horny and cringe, but they were mostly just real books, which was shocking to me, and that's the only reason I wanted to make the video. There's a lot of just weird stuff that I'm not gonna put on the list, but there's a couple of books here that allow me to talk about books that I otherwise would have no reason to talk about. Particularly, John Hughes, who we'll get to. But, yeah, there's just a lot of shit. Oh, I gotta suck my chest in. I can't look chubby for the goth Donna Tartt fans. Oh, you know Caroline Polachek? Man, her vocal fries are just so sophisticated. Yeah. Sweet impossible. What are we doing again? I forgot what the video was. Oh, yeah, alright, we're doing 10 lowest rated Goodreads books. Let's go. Number 10. What is number 10? Number 10, we have A Spool of Blue Thread with a 3.43 out of 5. That's not really that low, I don't know. I give every book like a 2 or a 3, anyway. That's by, what's her name again? Ann Tyler, that's right, Ann Tyler. That's the only Ann Tyler book I've read, and I thought it was pretty great. I gave it a 3 as well, but it's closer to a 4 out of 5. She's in that camp with Alice Munro and Carol Shields of these white women who, I mean, okay, I don't need to classify it like that, but these authors who write about suburbia with this kind of very broad, timeless lens where you know, shit jumps around, but for the most part it's about normal people and it's about housewives and that kind of grand structure that they give stuff, like Alice Munro with her short stories, is kind of a supplement to that. I really like the book. I can see why some people wouldn't like it because it's kind of plotless and it's really jumpy and it's messy, but like deliberately messy. But yeah, I love the book. I would like to read more from her for sure. I hear that a lot of her books are like that, and yeah, that's the only one I've read from her, so bing bong. Number 9, we have a book that was on my favorites of last year. We have The Passport by Hattamula with a 3.32 out of 5. It's very short, it barely counts as a book. I nearly didn't put it on this, but I think it's fantastic. It's very dark, it's very nihilistic, it's very disgusting. It's kind of pretentious, a little bit, at least like the first 20 pages are pretentious, and then after that it's not, but I fucking love it. I think it's great. I've read it like twice now. I think I've read it maybe 3 times. But yeah, it's great. It's great. It's grim and disjointed, but I like grim and disjointed things, so I give it a 5 out of 5. Next up, we have Study for Obedience with a 3.23 out of 5. One of the Booker long-listed books from last year. I think it's totally fine. It does not deserve to be the 8th lowest book I've ever read on Goodreads. It's not a book that appeals to the typical Goodreads reader in my mind, who is the person who likes Sarah J. Maas, a crown of coins and discuses, a twig of leaves and wood, and it doesn't appeal to the people who gave Iron Flame a 6 out of 5, so, you know, fuck. It's dense, it's kind of dumb. The writing style is a little, it's like really ironic. It's a really ironic book. It's very sarcastic, and you really only get that the second time you read it. The first time you read it, you're kind of like, okay, and then the second time you're like, oh, it's meant to be funny, and then it is funny once you realize that. But it's like hard humor to get. I'll tell you what, you gotta stretch your brain for it. Number 7, we have The Goalie's Anxiety at the Penalty Kick with a 3.18 out of 5. I mean, the worst title of any book, really. What a shit title. I know exactly why this book is rated as low as it is. Peter Handke is the author, and he won the Nobel Prize for Literature at some point or another. And he's said some controversial things surrounding war crimes. I remember Salman Rushdie called him the International Moron of the Year when he got the Nobel Prize, which is pretty good. He said about the Serbian genocide that the Bosnian Serbs didn't do it, or something, or that it was all a hoax. Maybe I'm paraphrasing, I don't know if I'm slandering him, but he's defended the genocide to some extent. I mean, maybe not defended it, but trivialized it a little bit. He has defended Milosevic. Yeah, there's a lot of weird shit he's done that a lot of people disagree with. Like, I think he's aware that he's wrong. Again, I hate people who do that, who go, I'm the only one who can have this political opinion that's right. But in this case, I literally don't know how he can defend the points that he's making. But either way, I mean, when he got the Nobel Prize, everybody wanted that fucking committee's head, and then, yeah, the heads rolled, after that whole sexual abuse scandal, and yeah, people fucking hate the author but love the books, and that's why I've seen him get slightly review bombed. But there you go, Peter Hankey. I mean, I think the book's fine. I don't remember it really. I give it like a 2 out of 5. I'll have to read more from him. People love him who are kind of impartial, so maybe he's good, but I don't remember the goalie's anxiety at the penalty kick being a book I cared about. Next up, we have Billy Budd Sailor by Herman Melville with a 3.17 out of 5. Disgustingly low. Herman Melville, one of my absolute favorite authors. Moby Dick, I fucking love it. I love it, love it, love it. I've read it so much. And people hate it because he just writes Wikipedia articles in the book about whales. He pauses the plot and he puts in a chapter about whales. That's all information that's wrong now. And he just slams you with like facts, like factoids about whales throughout the book. I love that. I think it works really well. And it displays a similar level of passion from the author that all the characters feel towards whales. So it kind of works, and I still love the book, but yeah, I get why people fucking hate that book. Yeah, of course. Billy Budd Sailor is not like that at all. Billy Budd Sailor is really, really tight, and I have no idea why people don't like it, but I gave it a 4 out of 5. So there you go. I think it's a good thing to start with that book before you move into the Moby Dick fuckery. But yeah, you could edit down Moby Dick to 150 pages if you wanted to. It would be a worse book to me, but yeah, you could do it and it would not destroy the integrity of it. Whereas Billy Budd Sailor, I don't feel like you could do that with at all. It's like a moral fable. It has a lot of really great historical detail. Herman Melville is great at dialogue. He's really good at dialogue, and all the characters in that book are really strong with that too. I haven't seen the movies of either Moby Dick or Billy Budd Sailor. I think there's a Billy Budd Sailor movie, but I'm sure it's fucking cracker. I'm sure it's like cracking pace, because yeah, Herman Melville's dialogue is so good. So yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I like it. 4 out of 5. And number 5, we have Treacle Walker with a 3.15 out of 5. Literally the only thing you guys don't like about the book is the ending, which is goofy. But the first 80% is fine. Shut up, it's fine. These Booker books just get absolutely fisted. Next up we have The Gospel According to the New World with a 3.05 out of 5, which is way too high. That's too high a rating for that book. But yeah, again, if it wasn't a Booker book, it wouldn't be getting shit on like this. It's pointless and pretentious and I hate it. 1 out of 5, but I don't know, it's just funny to see these books that don't deserve the hate just getting shit on. And number 3, again, another Booker book. We have The Finkler Question with a 2.82 out of 5. Again, slightly too high. Book sucks. Shit's really annoying. It has like non-points. The character, it's like some of the worst characters ever. They're like so thinly drawn and all they do is like quip at each other, but you fucking hate the characters and you're totally not meant to. They're just so annoying. And I read that book incrementally during a class I had in the first year of uni, and I don't remember a fucking thing about it. And I barely remember a thing about that class by proxy, so, you know, yeah, something about that book is just like the neuralizer, it just wipes your fucking memory. Yeah, very not compelling 1 out of 5. Bad Booker winner, Jesus. At number 2, this is the one I've been looking to talk about. We have The Dogs with a 2.76 out of 5 by John Hughes. John Hughes is an Australian author. I put author in quotations. It was longlisted for the Miles Franklin, this book, but it was taken off it because they discovered that he had allegedly, definitely allegedly, plagiarized vast swathes of the book. And he hadn't plagiarized these books from some obscure source, like some 18th century French book. He plagiarized them from, like, The Great Gatsby and fucking Anna Karenina and shit like that. And the second someone noticed this, everyone was like, right, the hunt is on, we're gonna find all these plagiarized passages. And when you see them, like, holy shit, are they bold? There's a fantastic Guardian article I'll link that just lists them, and it's so funny. But yeah, hang on, here's some good ones. Here's the best, here's the Great Gatsby quote, alright, the quote from the Great Gatsby. He smiled understandingly, much more than understandingly. It was one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it that you may come across 4 or 5 times in your life. It faced, or seemed to face, the whole eternal world for an instant, and then concentrated on you with an irresistible prejudice in your favor. Now here's the quote from the dogs. She smiled at me then, one of those rare smiles with a quality of eternal reassurance in it, that you might come across once in your life if you were lucky. Oh, instead of saying 4 or 5 times, he said once, so that the turn-it-in ChatGPT flagger didn't notice it. It faced, or seemed to face, the whole eternal world for an instant, and then concentrated on you with an irresistible prejudice in your favor. So I think that's one word change. Let's do another one. These are fun. All right, here's a quote from All Quiet on the Western Front now. One lance corporal crawls for a full half-mile on his hands, dragging his legs behind him, with both knees shattered. Another man makes it to a dressing station with his guts spilling out over his hands as he holds them in. And here's the quote from the dogs. One man crawled for a full half-mile on his hands, so it still said half-mile, dragging his legs behind him, both knees shattered, so he's removing key words. Another made it to a dressing station with his guts spilling over his hands as he held them in. He also quoted from Alexievich from The Unwomanly Face of War, I think. Is that the name of the book? And Alexievich said, she sent a brief statement through a translator saying, I have never heard of the dogs nor been contacted by Hughes. The verbatim takes from my book are outrageous, and of course I did not agree to this. I love her, what a legend. I have never heard of this book. It's such a cunt move, but it's so funny. What his defense for all of this was absolutely outrageous. What he said, he initially said that he forgot, and here's what he said about copying from Alexievich. He said, I typed up the passages I wanted to use and have not returned to the book itself since. At some point soon after, I must have added them to the transcripts I'd made of interviews with my grandparents, and over the years, had come to think of them as my own. Like, the shittest possible excuse. So John Hughes weighed it up and he said, I could either look like a plagiarist or look like I have the level of intelligence of like a cow. And he said, fuck it, plagiarism is the cardinal sin here. We're gonna say sorry, I forgot. But then he made a second apology, basically denying what he said previously, and that second apology is the cuntiest, weaseliest shit I've ever read. I'll link the full thing in the description. Again, it's a Guardian article, but I'll give you some excerpts. He tries to dob in other writers and say, well, Jean Rhys took from Jane Eyre, so I guess she's a plagiarist too, if you really think about it. A quote from him, I've always spoken through the voices of others. For better or worse, I've lived my life in books, and influence has been one of the key themes throughout my work. Shut your bitch ass up! I've read the book, recently actually, in the last couple of months. It's very boring, it was a shit book before it got longlisted for the Miles Franklin. It's not as bad as like, well, no, it's as bad as something like Prophet Song or some other, you know, bait shit that's baity for awards. But, I mean, the book gets funnier, because I would have picked up some of those quotes. I wouldn't have picked up all of them by any means, but she smiled then, the quality of eternal reassurance. That's a pretty famous quote. I feel like that's a quote that I knew before I read it in The Dogs. And I knew about the plagiarism before I read the book. I read it because of the plagiarism, because I thought it would be funny. And it was very funny. And the full article that just runs through them is fucking great. It's so funny. But, yeah, I mean, yeah, John Hughes, go fuck yourself, allegedly. Oh, Alex, but you've stolen the whole idea of your video from someone else. Yeah, but I've got my sleeves rolled up and I'm looking hunky, so I get away with it. And last on this list, number 1, we have the book Antigua, the Land of Fairies, Wizards, and Heroes with a 1.61 out of 5 by Denise Brown Ellis and Larry Ellis, relatives of Bret Easton. No, probably not. I read this book a long time ago because it topped some innocuous internet list about the worst books ever written. And back in that day, it was like year 11 and year 12 for me, and I was in legal studies class. And in legal studies, I would like mock read books with my friends. So I read the entirety of Finnegan's Wake. Basically, ironically, I would read like 4 or 5 pages a day, and sometimes I would read those during class. And by the end of it, I'd read the entirety of Finnegan's Wake, and fucked if I remember any of it, but yeah, I've read the whole thing. I can claim that wholeheartedly. and one of the books that got thrown in that mix was the book Antigua, The Land of Fairies, Wizards, and Heroes, because I found it so funny. Even back then, I was a pretentious little kid, and the book, every single page had about 50 to 60 exclamation marks on it. Any moment of action would have just exclamation marks to insist that it's action, so it'd be like, the dragon comes down! The dragon shoots fire! A man stops the fire with his shield! Exclamation mark. And it was an exclamation mark every single page. And that was really funny, but I think recently they've rewritten the book without telling anyone, because I tried to read it again, and it was written like a normal piece of shit fantasy book, and I was just bored. So, initially, I would have given it a 5 out of 5 because it was funny, but now it's not funny anymore, so it gets a 1 out of 5, sorry. That was kind of a boring end to this list, but at least I got to talk about some funny stuff. The worst one out of that list is easily The Dogs. I would recommend reading The Dogs. I think it's an interesting lesson, or just reading the context around it, because holy shit. I've wanted to, on my channel, make a series of videos about book-related controversies, literary controversies, and I think if I ever do that, I'll just jump into the John Hughes thing in more detail, but I've got a couple of things lined up if I can be bothered to edit my videos more. But thank you guys, leave a like if you think I looked smoking in this video, because wow, look at my sweat patches, wow!